Nia Sterling was the kind of woman who looked like she had everything: wealth, beauty, power, and a future already written in gold. At 37, she moved through life like a polished brand: designer clothes, a respected last name, and a family empire waiting for her to lead. But behind the shine was a quiet
Will you marry
loneliness
me?
she never admitted
Yes,
out loud.
1,000 times yes.
Everyone
I
around
love
her
you.
assumed she was living the dream. Yet Nia's life came with one painful rule.
We've
She could
decided
not
it's
become
time
the
for you to
next
get married.
It's for your own good,
CEO
sweet.
of her
No,
family's company
I'm not ready.
unless she married and produced heirs. Her parents called it legacy. Nia called it a cage. And while she struggled under that pressure, across town lived Malik Rivers, a hard-working mechanic raising his little brother, Zion, with nothing but faith, dignity, and determination. Nia and Malik came from two different worlds, but one storm, one betrayal,
Well, what do we
and
do
one
now? It's
sacrifice
raining and I have a meeting in
would
an
bring
hour.
their destinies crashing together. That Sunday evening, the Sterling estate looked peaceful from the outside: bright porch lights, perfectly trimmed trees, and soft music floating through the windows. But inside, peace was the last thing Nia Sterling felt. Nia was 37, a wealthy, accomplished Black American executive with a reputation for excellence. She had just changed out of her church outfit into a simple dress, hoping for a quiet night. Instead, she found her parents waiting like they'd scheduled the conversation. Her father, Edmund Sterling, sat in his favorite chair in the living room, posture straight, expression serious. Edmund was in his 60s, a powerful business owner who measured life by outcomes: profit, legacy, and control. Beside the fireplace stood her mother, Patrice Sterling, elegant and composed, the kind of woman whose calm voice could still feel like pressure. Patrice smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Nia, sit with us, baby." Nia sat slowly, already sensing what was coming. "If this is about the company again, it's about your life," Patrice cut in gently. "And your future." Edmund's voice was firm. "You're almost 40. We need to stop pretending this isn't urgent." Nia blinked. "Urgent? For who?" "For this family," Edmund replied. "For the Sterling name, for the next generation." Nia's chest tightened. She had worked years for Sterling Global Holdings, building deals, earning trust, proving she wasn't just their daughter, she was capable. Yet somehow, none of that seemed to matter as much as one thing. Patrice stepped closer, lowering her tone like she was offering comfort. "We want grandchildren, Nia. We want to see you settled with a husband who can lead with you." Nia gave a short laugh, not because it was funny, because it was unreal. "So my accomplishments mean nothing unless I have a ring?" Edmund leaned forward. "Don't twist it." "I'm not twisting anything," Nia said, her voice steady but shaking underneath. "You're telling me marriage is a requirement." Patrice hesitated, then nodded. "The board policy says the next CEO must reflect family stability, married, a respectable home." Nia stared at her mother. "You're saying I can't fully become CEO unless I'm married?" Edmund's eyes didn't move. "Policies protect the company." Nia stood up slowly. "No, policies control women." A silence fell, the kind that made the room feel smaller. Patrice spoke again, softer this time. "You've had options, Nia. Plenty of good men." Nia remembered the options: men who treated her like a prize to win, men who sent gifts without knowing her favorite color, men who talked about their money more than their character. "I've had rich men," Nia corrected. "Not good men." Nia went to her room and closed the door, breathing hard. She pulled out her phone and called her closest friend. Brielle Vaughn, a stylish marketing executive in her 30s, and Nia's best friend since college, answered immediately. "Hey, you okay?" Nia swallowed. "They're forcing it, Brie. Marriage, a timeline, like I'm a project." Brielle's voice softened. "I'm coming over tomorrow. We'll talk. Nia stared out of her window at the clean, perfect estate grounds and whispered, "They've started the clock." Across town, in a modest apartment above a small auto shop, Malik Rivers, a 41-year-old mechanic with tired hands and a quiet, steady heart, sat at a kitchen table helping his little brother. Zion Rivers, 10 years old and full of jokes and questions, frowned at a homework page. "Bro, why math got beef with me?" Malik chuckled, even though he was exhausted. "Math don't have beef, you just don't want to read the problem." Zion grinned. "Reading is a setup." Malik shook his head with a small smile, but when his phone buzzed with another bill reminder, his expression dimmed. 2 different worlds, 2 different burdens, and neither of them knew that their lives were already moving toward the same storm. The following Saturday evening, the Sterling estate was dressed up like it had something to prove. Bright lights on the driveway, soft music in the backyard, and servers moving smoothly between guests with trays of drinks. Nia stood near the window, watching strangers smile too hard and laugh too loud. She reminded herself to breathe. Brielle Vaughn, her best friend, stayed close, her eyes scanning the crowd like a protective sister. "Remember," Brielle whispered, "you don't owe anybody your yes." Nia nodded, though her stomach still felt tight. "Tell that to my parents." Across the yard, Edmund Sterling stood tall in a tailored suit, greeting influential guests like he was sealing deals. Patrice Sterling floated beside him in a glittering dress, smiling proudly as if tonight was already a success. "Nia," Patrice called, waving her over. "Come meet someone." Nia forced a polite expression and walked over. Patrice led her to a tall man with perfect teeth and expensive confidence. "This is Grant Holloway," Patrice said. "He's the son of Mr. Holloway, one of our strongest investment partners." Grant was in his late 30s, smooth and polished, wearing a watch that looked like it cost more than a car. He extended his hand. "Nia Sterling, I've heard you're the real brain behind the company." Nia shook his hand. "That's generous." Grant smiled as if he'd just scored a point. "Not generous, accurate. I respect a woman who knows her value." Brielle's eyebrow lifted slightly, like she could smell the performance. Grant continued, "We should talk more. You and I could be a powerful match." Nia pulled her hand back. "A match isn't the same as love." Grant chuckled. "Love grows after marriage. That's how it's supposed to be." Nia's smile stayed polite, but her heart wasn't in it. Grant wasn't rude. He just sounded like someone who believed everything important could be planned. Patrice beamed. Edmund watched from a distance, satisfied. Nia excused herself and walked away, needing air. She stepped toward the side of the house, where the noise was softer, the lights less blinding. That was when she noticed a man near the driveway, not dressed like the others. He wore a simple black button-down and plain shoes, but he stood with a calmness that didn't beg for attention. His face was handsome in a quiet way, like someone who didn't need approval to feel confident. He was speaking to one of the servers kindly, helping her steady a tray that almost tipped. Nia paused. The man turned and met her eyes. "You okay?" he asked, voice gentle. Nia blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity. "I'm fine." He gave a small smile. "You don't look fine. You look cornered." Nia exhaled sharply. "Is it that obvious?" "It is to someone who's been cornered before," he said. Before Nia could respond, Brielle appeared behind her. "Nia, your mom is looking—" Brielle stopped mid-sentence, her eyes moving to the man. "Who are you?" The man straightened politely. "Name's Caleb Hart," he said. "I'm a friend of a friend. I wasn't sure I'd fit in, honestly." Nia studied him. Caleb's tone wasn't thirsty. He didn't boast. He didn't shine his wealth because he didn't seem to have any to show. "What do you do, Caleb?" Nia asked. He hesitated just slightly. A little of this, a little of that. I'm building. Something about that answer felt humble, maybe too humble, but Nia's heart, already tired of polished men, leaned toward it. Brielle's eyes narrowed, protective. Building what? Caleb laughed softly. My life. Nia surprised herself by smiling, a real one. Meanwhile, at the edge of the driveway, Caleb's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen quickly, then flipped it face down. He didn't see Nia notice, and he didn't hear Brielle's quiet warning as she leaned close to Nia's ear. Just be careful, Brielle murmured. Some people wear humility like a costume. Nia watched Caleb again, calm, gentle, present, and for the first time in weeks, she felt something she couldn't explain. Hope. But in another part of the city, Caleb's phone buzzed again, this time with a message that wasn't sweet at all. A name flashed across the screen. Jasmine Rowe. Later that night, after the last guest had complimented the Sterling estate, and the music finally faded, Nia lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The gathering had ended, but her mind wouldn't. Grant Holloway's confident voice replayed in her head. Powerful match. Love grows after marriage. And it made her feel like she was being recruited, not cherished. Yet the calm presence of Caleb Hart had felt different. He hadn't pushed. He hadn't performed wealth. He had simply looked at her like a person. Nia turned to her nightstand and saw her phone light up. A text from Caleb. I'm glad I met you tonight. You looked like you needed someone in your corner. Her heart softened, despite her better judgment. Down the hall, Patrice Sterling stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching Nia with the kind of smile that carried expectation. He's a nice surprise, Patrice said carefully. Caleb. Nia sat up. You invited him. Patrice hesitated. A friend of a friend suggested him. Not every good man has to come from a billionaire family, Nia. Nia narrowed her eyes. That's new for you. Patrice's smile tightened. We're learning, but don't mistake kindness for carelessness. You will still choose wisely. Nia didn't respond. Patrice left, but the pressure stayed, thick as a blanket. Nia stared at Caleb's message again and whispered to herself, maybe this is what real looks like. Across town, Caleb sat in the driver's seat of an older sedan, parked under a streetlight behind a small apartment building. The glow from his phone lit his face as it buzzed again, this time not with warmth, but demands. Jasmine Rowe was calling. Caleb sighed before answering. Jazz! Jasmine's voice came sharp through the speaker. Jasmine was in her early 30s, stylish, impatient, and used to getting what she wanted. So you met her, right? You got close? Caleb glanced around, lowering his voice. I met her. She's not stupid, Jasmine. She's actually different. Different doesn't matter, Jasmine snapped. Money is money. Caleb tightened his grip on the phone. You said we'd do this clean, quick, no drama. Jasmine laughed, dry and mean. Drama is you getting soft. A knock hit Caleb's window. He flinched and looked out. A tall man leaned down with a smirk. Darren Hart, Caleb's cousin. Darren was mid-30s, slick, sharp-eyed, and always dressed like he had somewhere important to be. He had the kind of confidence that came from never feeling guilty. Caleb cracked the window. What are you doing here? Darren's smile widened. Making sure you don't mess up our blessing. Caleb turned back to the phone. I'll call you later, Jasmine. Don't call, execute, Jasmine hissed before hanging up. Caleb ended the call and stepped out of the car. Darren circled him like an inspector. You were supposed to have her hooked tonight, Darren said. I heard she's under pressure to marry. That's a golden door, cuz. Caleb frowned. She's a person, Darren, not a door. Darren chuckled. And you're a mechanic of emotions now? Listen, You want out of your struggling life or not? Caleb's shoulders tensed. I want a better life, yes, but not like this. Darren leaned closer, voice lowering. You already started. Finish. Get her to trust you. Get the ring. Once the money moves, we vanish. Caleb looked away, jaw tight. In the distance, laughter drifted from a balcony above them. Someone living a life Caleb had never been invited into. Darren tapped Caleb's chest lightly, like sealing a deal. Don't fall in love. Fall in line. The next morning, Nia sat at her kitchen island scrolling through messages. Brielle's warning echoed in her head. Some people wear humility like a costume. Then a new message popped up from Caleb. Can I take you to dinner? Somewhere simple. No pressure. Nia stared at the screen a long moment. Her heart wanted peace. Her mind wanted proof. She typed back slowly. Okay, but I'm watching everything. Nia didn't know it yet, but the moment she hit send, two stories quietly collided, one built on hope and one built on a lie. A week after the gathering, Nia's life began to feel strangely quiet, like the world had lowered its volume just enough for her to hear her own thoughts again. Caleb Hart had become consistent, not flashy, not loud. He texted, "Good morning," asked about her day, and picked simple places for dinner, small restaurants with warm lighting and normal people, no cameras, no show. For the first time in a long time, Nia felt like she could breathe. Even Brielle Vaughn admitted, cautiously, that Caleb wasn't acting like the typical rich chaser. Still, Brielle never stopped watching him. She watched his pauses, his wording, the way he sometimes glanced at his phone as if it weighed more than it should. One Friday night, Caleb came to Nia's townhouse with takeout and a smile. They ate on the couch, laughing softly at an old comedy. When Nia teased him about how he avoided fancy places, he shrugged. I like simple, he said. Simple is honest. Nia leaned into that sentence like it was a promise. Later, after midnight, they fell asleep. Nia curled on one side of the bed, Caleb on the other, the room quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. Then Caleb's phone lit up, once, twice, again. The buzzing didn't stop. Nia stirred, half asleep, and heard Caleb whispering, low and urgent. At first she thought he was talking to someone about work, then she caught a name. Jasmine, not right now. Nia's eyes opened fully. She didn't move, she didn't breathe too loud. She listened. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker, sharp, annoyed, and too familiar to be harmless. Not right now? Caleb, are you forgetting what this is? You said she's falling for you. Caleb sighed, rubbing his forehead. I'm handling it. Handling it? The woman snapped. I'm not sitting around while you play Prince Charming. Where are we with the money? When are we getting paid? Nia's heart stopped. Caleb's voice dropped even lower. You promised me we wouldn't talk like this when I'm with her. With her? The woman laughed, ugly and careless. Boy, she ain't yours. She's our opportunity. Darren said once you lock it in, we move fast. We take what we came for and we're gone. Nia's stomach turned cold. Caleb whispered, Stop saying Darren's name. But the woman, Jasmine, kept going, like she wanted Nia to hear on purpose. Don't get soft, Caleb. Remember the plan. Marriage, access, money. Then we disappear. I'm not losing my future because you caught feelings. Silence hit the room like thunder. Nia sat up slowly, her body trembling. Caleb turned and froze when he saw her eyes, wide, wounded, awake. Nia, he started. She reached for the lamp and switched it on. Light flooded the room, exposing everything, his panic, his guilt, his lies. Nia's voice came out steady, but broken. Who is Jasmine? Caleb swallowed. It's not what it sounds like. Nia laughed once, hollow. You literally just explained it. Caleb sat up, shaking his head fast. Please let me talk. No, Nia cut him off, her eyes burning. You don't get to talk your way out of using me. Caleb reached for her hand. Nia pulled away like his touch was heat. I thought you were real, she whispered. I thought you were different. Caleb's face tightened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. That's the worst part, Nia said, voice rising. Because it did go this far. You stayed, you smiled, you let me trust you. Caleb's eyes watered, but Nia didn't soften. She stood and pointed toward the door. Get out! Caleb stared at her like he couldn't believe she meant it. Now, Nia repeated. Caleb moved slowly, grabbing his jacket, his phone, his shoes. At the door, he turned back, desperate. Nia, I'm sorry. Nia's voice cracked for the first time. Sorry doesn't unbreak people. The door closed. Nia locked it, then slid down against it, shaking. Tears fell fast, hot, unstoppable. Within minutes, her phone rang. The caller ID read, Patrice Sterling. Nia answered, voice trembling. Mom. Patrice's tone was calm, too calm. Did it happen? Nia's throat tightened. Yes. A pause. Then Patrice said the words that finished the wound. We warned you, Nia. People with nothing will always try to take from people who have everything. Nia closed her eyes, tears falling harder, and in that moment, her heartbreak didn't just become pain, it became a belief. The following Thursday evening, Houston wore a heavy sky. Gray clouds stacked high, rain falling in sheets that blurred headlights and street signs. Nia drove slowly through the downpour, hands tight on the steering wheel, her jaw clenched like she could hold her life together by force. Since Caleb, she hadn't cried in public again. She'd worked longer hours, spoken less, and smiled only when she had to. The pain hadn't disappeared. It had hardened. Her mother's words still echoed in her head like a cruel hymn. People with nothing will always try to take from people who have everything. Nia hated that sentence, but some part of her feared it was true. Lightning flashed. A second later, her dashboard lit up with warnings. Then her car jerked. The engine sputtered like it was choking. No, Nia breathed, tapping the brakes. Not tonight. The car rolled to a shaky stop on the shoulder. Rain hammered the windshield. Nia tried the ignition again. It clicked, coughed, then died. She stared forward, blinking fast. For a moment she felt small, alone in a storm, stuck on a dark road with her thoughts. She grabbed her phone. No service, of course. Nia looked out at the empty stretch of street, rain bouncing off asphalt. She wrapped her coat tighter and stepped out, immediately drenched. She popped the hood, even though she didn't know what she was looking for. Steam rose up in the rain, like her car was sighing. Headlights appeared behind her. A vehicle slowed, pulled over, and stopped a few yards back. Nia's body tensed instantly. A tall man stepped out and walked toward her with cautious calm, hands visible. He wore a dark hoodie and jeans, shoulders broad, posture tired. Rain soaked him too, but he didn't rush her. He kept a respectful distance. Ma'am, he called over the rain, voice steady. You okay? Nia turned sharply. I'm fine. The man nodded slowly. Your hazard lights are on and your hood's up. That usually means not fine. Nia hesitated, irritation mixing with fear. I don't need help. I'm not here to bother you, he said, just making sure you're safe. He stepped closer, still careful. My name's Malik Rivers. I run a mechanic shop a few blocks from here. Nia's stomach tightened at the word mechanic. Her mind immediately ran to Caleb, to Jasmine's voice, to her parents' warnings. Malik glanced at the engine, then back at her. If you want, I can take a look. Could be something simple. Nia crossed her arms, rain dripping from her hair. And what would you want in return? Malik blinked. Nothing. Just help. Nia's laugh came out bitter. Right, that's what you all say. Malik's brows pulled together. What do you mean, you all? Nia felt the heat in her chest rise. People who pretend to be humble so they can get close, so they can find a way in. Malik stared at her like she'd slapped him with words. Ma'am, I don't know you. I know your type, Nia snapped, the storm feeding her anger. Poor men always look for holes in rich people's lives. You think if you act nice, you'll get something. Malik's face tightened. Hurt flickered across his eyes, quick but real. Then he looked down at the engine again, exhaled and nodded once, like he was choosing peace over pride. I'm not asking for your money, he said quietly, but I'm also not going to argue with you. He reached into his truck and grabbed a small flashlight and a toolkit. Without another word, he checked the battery, wiped water off the connections, and worked like someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Nia stood there, soaked and silent, watching him. Part of her wanted to keep hating him. Another part of her, small but stubborn, noticed something uncomfortable. Malik didn't flirt, he didn't push closer, he didn't try to impress her, he just worked. After a few minutes, he stepped back. Your battery connection is loose, and the alternator's acting up. I can get you started, but you'll need a proper fix soon. Nia stared. Why are you still helping me after what I said? Malik's voice was low. Because leaving you stranded in a storm would make me the kind of man you think I am. He turned the key from the driver's seat, and the engine rumbled back to life. Nia's throat tightened. She wanted to say, thank you. She wanted to apologize, but pride and pain beat her to it. She opened her door and said coldly, I didn't ask for your help. Malik stepped back from the rain, eyes heavy. No, you didn't. Then he walked away toward his truck, without another word. Shoulders stiff, dignity bruised. Nia drove off, rain trailing behind her, but the storm didn't follow her home. It stayed inside her. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Nia's bedroom curtains, like it was trying to erase last night's storm. But Nia's mind wouldn't clear. Every time she replayed the roadside scene, she didn't just remember the rain. She remembered Malik River's eyes when she said those words. Poor men always look for holes. Nia sat at the edge of her bed, embarrassed by how easily bitterness had taken her mouth hostage. Malik could have left her there. He didn't. He helped her anyway, quietly, respectfully, like kindness was simply who he was, and she had repaid him with cruelty. By noon, Nia couldn't stand the guilt anymore. She grabbed her keys and drove across town, following the address she'd spotted on a sign near Malik's truck the night before. River's Auto Works was nothing like the polished buildings she lived inside. It was a modest shop with a faded sign, 2 open bays, and the smell of oil and metal in the air. But it also felt alive. Customers talking, workers laughing, music playing softly from an old speaker. Nia stood at the entrance for a moment, suddenly unsure. She didn't belong here, but she came anyway. Inside, a small boy sat at a front desk, swinging his legs like they couldn't hold still. He had bright eyes, a wide grin, and a notebook open in front of him like he was pretending to work. That was Zion Rivers, 10 years old, Malik's little brother, curious, energetic, and clearly the kind of kid who could turn any quiet room into a conversation. Zion looked up and squinted at Nia. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked, trying to sound grown. Nia blinked, caught off guard. I'm looking for Malik Rivers." Zion's face lit up. "That's my brother. He fixes cars and also fixes my attitude sometimes." Nia let out a small laugh before she could stop it. "He does?" "Yeah," Zion said seriously, then leaned closer like sharing a secret. "But my attitude is strong. It fights back." Nia smiled, an actual smile. "I can tell." Zion pointed at her outfit. You look like you work in one of those tall buildings where people walk fast and don't blink. Nia chuckled. That's accurate. Zion nodded wisely. My teacher says fast walking is a sign of stress. Nia raised an eyebrow. Your teacher sounds smart. Zion grinned. She is, but I'm smarter. I just don't like homework. Nia laughed again, feeling tension loosen in her shoulders for the first time all week. A voice came from behind her, calm, familiar, and guarded. What are you doing here? Nia turned. Malik Rivers, 41, stood a few feet away, wiping his hands with a cloth. In daylight, he looked even more tired than she'd noticed in the rain. Tired in a responsible way, like the world leaned on him often. His expression was neutral, but his eyes were cautious. Zion's grin widened. Bro, she came looking for you. That's suspicious. Zion, Malik warned softly, but the boy only giggled. Nia swallowed. Malik, I came to apologize. Malik's jaw tightened. For what? For last night, Nia said, voice steady. For assuming the worst of you, for insulting you when you were only trying to help. Malik stared at her a long moment. Then he glanced at Zion, who was watching like this was the best show on earth. Malik lowered his voice. You don't know me, so why did you say what you said? Nia's eyes dropped. Because someone hurt me, and I let that hurt shape how I see people. Malik's expression didn't soften fully, but something shifted. That's not an excuse, he said. But it's honest. Nia nodded quickly. You're right, it's not an excuse. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. And I want to pay you for the help. Malik's eyes flicked to the envelope, then back to her. Keep it. Nia blinked. Malik, I didn't help you for money, he said firmly. And I'm not taking money to make you feel better. Zion leaned toward Nia and whispered loudly. He does that. He acts tough, but he's soft on the inside. Zion, Malik repeated, but this time there was a hint of a smile fighting its way through. Nia looked at Malik, her voice quiet. Then let me do this the right way. Let me start over. Malik studied her, then gave one small nod. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a door cracking open, and Nia felt it. Some apologies don't end a story. Some apologies begin one. 2 days after Nia's apology, she found herself thinking about Rivers' auto works more than she expected. Not the smell of oil or the clatter of tools, though those were oddly comforting, but the feeling she'd had standing there, like life could be simple and honest again. So on Tuesday afternoon, after work, she drove back. This time she didn't come with guilt. She came with intention. Nia parked outside the shop and stepped in, holding a small bag. Zion Rivers, 10 years old and full of energy, looked up from the front desk like he'd been waiting. You came back, Zion announced, loud enough for the whole shop to hear. I knew you would. People don't laugh twice in here and just disappear. Nia smiled. Hi, Zion. He leaned forward and squinted at the bag in her hand. Is that food? Because if it's food, you are officially my favorite visitor. It's snacks, Nia admitted, and I brought one extra in case Malik says no. Zion slapped the desk. Smart. My brother always says no first. From the back bay, Malik Rivers appeared, wiping his hands again like that was his habit whenever emotions might show up. He stopped when he saw Nia. Your car already acting up again? Malik asked, tone dry. No, Nia said quickly. I just came by. Malik raised an eyebrow. For what? Nia lifted the bag slightly. Peace offering and snacks for your assistant. Zion gasped dramatically. She called me an assistant. Bro, I'm moving up in the world. Malik tried to look annoyed, but his mouth twitched. Zion, go sit down. Zion sat, but not quietly. He unwrapped a snack like it was a celebration. Nia glanced around the shop. It wasn't glamorous. but it felt real. Men were working, laughing, helping customers. She realized something that made her chest ache. Malik's world didn't have luxury, but it had community. Malik nodded toward a chair near the desk. "Sit if you're going to stand there looking lost." Nia sat, surprised he'd invited her to stay. For a few minutes, they talked about small things, how the rain had flooded certain streets, how Zion's school loved to send home urgent notes that were never urgent. Nia laughed more than she expected. Malik didn't smile easily, but when he did, it looked like relief. Then Zion suddenly asked, "So, Ms. Nia, are you rich?" Nia blinked, caught off guard. Malik turned sharply. "Zion!" Zion held up his hands. "It's a question. I'm a curious person." Nia chuckled softly. "I'm comfortable." Zion nodded like he understood everything. "Okay, because my brother says money is like soap. If you hold it too tight, it slips away." Nia looked at Malik. "He really said that?" Malik sighed. "Once, after he tried to hide his allowance in the bathroom, and it got wet." Zion grinned proudly. "Still wisdom." Nia laughed, then her expression softened. "Zion, do you miss your mom?" The question came out gently, but the air shifted. Zion's grin faded for a second. He shrugged, small shoulders lifting. "I don't know her like that. Malik is my main person." Nia's heart squeezed. Malik's eyes lowered, his voice quiet. "Zion, go in the back and check on the vending machine. See if it's still broken." Zion hopped down, but before he ran off, he pointed at Malik and whispered to Nia, "He's sending me away so he can do grown-up talking." Then he disappeared with a playful dash. Malik leaned on the counter, looking tired in a way that wasn't about work. "He doesn't need sad conversations," Malik said. "He needs stability." Nia nodded slowly. "You're raising him alone." Malik's jaw tightened. "Yeah." Nia hesitated. "That's a lot." Malik let out a breath. "It is, but he's my brother, and he didn't ask for any of this." Nia's voice softened. "Neither did you." Malik looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time, his guarded expression eased. "Why are you here, Nia?" he asked, not harsh, just honest. Nia swallowed. "Because you helped me when you didn't have to, and I treated you wrong, and I don't want to be that kind of person anymore." Malik studied her a moment, then he nodded once. "Okay," he said quietly. "Then don't be." Outside, the afternoon sun warmed the pavement. Inside the shop, something small and fragile began to grow, built not on gifts or image, but on truth, laughter, and second chances. The following Saturday afternoon, Nia found herself doing something she hadn't done in years. She was at a public park with a paper bag of snacks, comfortable shoes, and no schedule breathing down her neck. She spotted them near the swings. Zion Rivers, 10 years old and full of bold energy, was racing back and forth with a juice box in his hand, like it was fuel for speed. Nearby, Malik Rivers, his 41-year-old brother and guardian, sat on a bench watching him with the alert calm of a man who never fully relaxed. Even in casual clothes, Malik carried responsibility like it was part of his posture. Zion noticed Nia first and shouted, "Miss Nia!" loud enough for birds to scatter. Nia laughed and waved. "Hi, Zion!" Zion sprinted over, stopped dramatically, and pointed at her bag. "Please tell me you brought snacks again because my stomach is requesting support." "I did," Nia said, amused, "but you have to share with Malik." Zion sighed like that was a hard sacrifice. "Fine, I'll bless him." Malik stood as Nia reached them. "You didn't have to come out here," he said, but his tone wasn't cold. It sounded careful. "I wanted to," Nia replied honestly. "Besides, Zion invited me." Zion nodded proudly. "I'm a community builder." Malik gave him a look. You learned that word from TV. Zion smiled. Still true. They spent the next hour in simple joy. Zion playing, Nia laughing, Malik occasionally joining in with small smiles he tried to hide. Nia realized she liked seeing him like this, away from engines and bills, just a man who cared for his little brother. Eventually, Zion ran off toward a group of kids playing tag. Malik and Nia sat on the bench, watching. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was gentle. Nia spoke first. You never really told me how you ended up raising Zion. Malik's eyes stayed on the field. It's a long story. I'm not in a rush, Nia said softly. Malik hesitated, then nodded once. Our mum wasn't around the way she should have been. Life got messy. I was already grown, working, trying to keep the shop alive. When Zion needed somebody steady, it became me. Nia's chest tightened. That's a lot to carry. Malik's jaw flexed. Yeah, and it cost me more than people see. Nia glanced at him. Kiara? Malik's eyes flicked to her, surprised she remembered. You heard about that? I picked up pieces, Nia admitted, and I don't want to assume. Malik exhaled slowly. Kiara Moss was my girlfriend for a while. She liked the idea of me, until she saw the reality. Bills, responsibility, Zion. She wanted restaurants and trips. I wanted stability. He paused, voice lower. She said I'd never be enough, said I was stuck and small. Then she left like my love was a burden. Nia felt anger rise, not at Malik, but at the cruelty of it. That was wrong. Malik nodded, eyes still forward. I didn't hate her. I just learned something. Some people only love what looks good. Nia swallowed hard, because that sentence hit her too. Caleb, the scam, the humiliation still living in her chest. She turned her face slightly away. I know what that feels like. Malik looked at her now. You want to talk about it? Nia hesitated, then spoke carefully. A man named Caleb. Made me believe he was honest. He wasn't. He had a girlfriend. They planned to take my money and leave. Malik's expression tightened, not with judgment but with understanding. That's why you said what you said in the rain. Nia nodded. A few seconds after Kiara's voice cut through the park, the world seemed to pause. Kiara Moss stood with her arms folded, chin lifted, wearing the kind of confidence that didn't ask permission. She was Malik's ex, mid-30s, glamorous and sharp-tongued, the woman who had once called his life too small and walked away when responsibility showed up. Malik's posture tightened like someone had pulled an old scar open. Nia rose slowly from the bench. She didn't know Kiara well, but she recognized the energy immediately, someone who entered a space to take control of it. Kiara's eyes moved over Nia's outfit, then her face, then settled on Malik. You really out here playing family man in the park, she said, voice sweet but edged. With a new friend. Malik's voice stayed low. Kiara, don't do this. Kiara laughed softly. Don't do what? Speak? I'm allowed to speak. Nia kept her tone polite. Hi, I'm Nia. Kiara didn't shake her hand. She just smiled like she'd already decided what kind of person Nia was. Nia, she repeated slowly. That name sounds expensive. Malik exhaled through his nose, controlled. She's a friend. Kiara tilted her head. A friend who's sitting with you at the park? A friend you're looking at like you forgot how to breathe? Malik's jaw clenched. Stop. Kiara stepped closer, lowering her voice as if she was doing Malik a favor. Look, Malik, I'm not here to fight. I was just surprised, that's all. Nia's eyes flicked toward Zion in the distance, still playing tag with other kids, safe, laughing, unaware. Nia was grateful for that. Zion didn't need tension thrown into his joy. Malik nodded toward the field. Zion's here. Keep it respectful. Kiara's expression shifted for a split second. Annoyance, maybe jealousy. Then she smoothed it into a smile. Of course, I'm respectful. Nia could tell that was a performance. Kiara turned to Nia again. So what do you do, Nia? Nia answered evenly. I'm in business. Kiara's eyebrows lifted. That's vague. Nia didn't bite. It's enough. Malik glanced at Nia, a quiet appreciation in his eyes, as if he was grateful she didn't need to prove anything. Kiara noticed that glance. Her smile sharpened. Malik always liked women who talk like they run the world, she said, almost nostalgic. Then her eyes narrowed. But the world doesn't run on feelings. It runs on reality. Malik's voice grew firm. Kiara, why are you here? Kiara hesitated like she hadn't expected to be questioned. Then she sighed dramatically. Fine. Reality? Reality is I've been thinking. Malik's expression stayed guarded. Thinking about what? Kiara's tone softened into something almost convincing. About you. About us. About how I left. Nia's stomach tightened. She watched Malik's face closely. Kiara continued. I was young. I wanted more. I thought love was supposed to look like luxury. I didn't understand what you were carrying. Malik didn't respond. He just stared, waiting. Kiara took another step closer, voice quieter. I miss you, Malik. Nia felt Malik's shoulders stiffen again, not from temptation, but from the weight of an old memory. Malik finally spoke. You didn't miss me when rent was due, or when Zion needed school supplies, or when the shop almost closed. Kiara's eyes flashed. I didn't know it was that bad. Malik shook his head slowly. You knew, you just didn't care. Kiara's face tightened, then she glanced at Nia with a hint of irritation. So she's your, what, your new support system? Nia met her gaze calmly. I'm not here to replace anybody. I'm here because Malik is a good man. Kiara laughed once, bitter. Good men don't pay bills, sweetheart. Malik's voice rose slightly, still controlled. That's enough. Kiara stared at him, surprised by his firmness. At that moment, Zion came running back, breathing hard, cheeks bright. Bro, Ms. Nia, I won. He stopped when he saw Kiara. His smile faded into confusion. Who's that? Malik's voice softened instantly. Zion, this is Kiara, someone I used to know. Kiara forced a bright smile for Zion. Hi, baby. Zion blinked. Okay. Nia noticed Zion shift closer to Malik, instinctive, and in that small movement, Malik made a quiet decision with his body even before he spoke it aloud. He stepped slightly in front of Zion, protective. Then Malik looked at Kiara and said, clear and final, You can't come back into my life like you never left. Kiara's smile faltered, and for the first time, Nia saw it. Malik wasn't just fixing cars, he was fixing boundaries, and the test of his heart had only just begun. The next evening, Malik's small apartment above Rivers Auto Works felt quieter than usual, the kind of quiet that came after tension, after a moment you couldn't undo. Zion Rivers, 10, sat cross-legged on the living room rug, with his game controller in hand, but he wasn't really playing. His eyes kept drifting toward Malik, who stood by the kitchen sink, rinsing dishes that didn't need rinsing. Zion finally spoke. Bro, that lady from the park, she made the air feel weird. Malik paused, then nodded. Yeah, she did. Zion frowned. Was she your girlfriend? Malik turned, leaning against the counter. A long time ago. Zion's eyes widened. Did she hurt you? Malik blinked at the question, not because it was wrong, because it was honest. She didn't hurt me with her hands, Malik said carefully. But her words did, and her choices did. Zion held his controller tighter. Why would somebody do that? Malik exhaled. Sometimes people love what's easy, and when love gets hard, they leave. Zion's face scrunched up. That's messed up. Malik almost smiled. Yeah, it is. A knock sounded downstairs at the shop door. Malik glanced at the clock. They were closed. Zion perked up. Is it Ms. Nia? Malik's heart skipped in a way he didn't want to admit. Stay here, he told Zion, then headed down. When Malik opened the door, Nia stood there with a small paper bag in one hand and a nervous expression on her face. The streetlight behind her made her look softer than she did in her corporate world. Less guarded, more human. Nia, Malik said, surprised. Everything okay? Nia nodded quickly. Yes, I wanted to check on you after yesterday. Malik stepped back to let her in. Come in. Inside the shop, the smell of metal and oil was familiar. But tonight, the place felt different, like it was holding a conversation instead of tools. Nia set the bag on the counter. I brought dinner, nothing fancy, just food. Malik studied her face. You didn't have to. I know. Nia swallowed. But I wanted to. Zion appeared at the top of the stairs, peeking like a curious cat. Malik waved him down. Zion hurried over, eyes bright. Miss Nia! Zion shouted. Then he glanced at the bag. Food? Nia laughed softly. Yes, food. Zion nodded seriously. I respect you. They ate at the small table in the corner of the shop. Malik quiet at first, Zion doing most of the talking like he always did. Zion explained his tag victory in full detail, then asked Nia if rich people ever played tag. Nia smiled. Not enough. They should. After Zion ran upstairs to grab something, Nia's expression grew more thoughtful. That woman, Nia said quietly. She didn't come to apologize. She came to test your door. Malik's eyes lifted. Yeah. Nia leaned forward slightly. And you closed it. Malik's voice was calm. I had to. If I let someone back in who only values me when I'm useful, I'm teaching Zion the wrong lesson. Nia's chest tightened at the mention of Zion. You're a good man, Malik. Malik looked away briefly. People say that when they want something. Nia's brows pulled together. That's not why I'm saying it. Malik met her eyes again, cautious. Then why are you here, Nia? Really? Nia inhaled slowly. Because yesterday, I saw something. Malik waited. I saw how you protect Zion, Nia continued. How you don't chase approval. How you set boundaries without being cruel. And it made me realize I've been living the opposite. Malik's expression softened a fraction. Nia's voice lowered. My parents are planning another match for me. Another man. Another arrangement. Malik nodded once, like he'd expected it. Grant. Nia blinked. You know his name? Malik gave a small, humorless smile. In this city, certain names float everywhere. Nia looked down at her hands. I'm tired, Malik. I'm tired of being treated like a brand. Malik's voice was quiet. Then stop letting them. Nia looked up, eyes shining. That's what I'm trying to do. A silence fell, gentle but heavy with meaning. Upstairs, Zion's voice called down. Bro, Ms. Nia, y'all talking like a serious movie again. Nia laughed through the tension. Malik shook his head, but this time there was warmth in it. Then Malik said, soft but clear, If you want a different life, Nia, it'll cost you comfort. Nia nodded, swallowing hard. I know. And in that moment, Nia didn't just bring dinner. She brought a choice. And Malik, still healing, still careful, realized that some doors were meant to stay closed, so the right ones could finally open. All right, Mr. Hope family, that brings us to the end of part 1, but here's what's coming in part 2. Nia is ready to take a big step, introducing Malik to her family. The question is, will they finally see his heart, or will they reject him because of his status? And what happens when pressure, pride, and old beliefs collide with real love? Do you think Malik will be strong enough to face her family? Do you think Nia will stand up for him this time? And how will Zion react when things get tense? Let's talk in the comments. I really want your thoughts. If you want part 2, comment. Mr. Hope, we need part 2. Until we meet again, goodbye.